Hey, will you help? No. Hillman can still find me. That's better. Now, where was I? Hello, you Hillmaniacs, it's Hillmanator, and I am joined back by...
Simon, hello, I'm here.
He returned. I forced him. He had no choice.
Actually, this was my idea.
It really was.
It was a terrible idea, and we shouldn't have done it, but...
No, it caused much pain for the both of us.
But now that we've done it, we might as well talk about it. So what is it that we're doing today, Josh? Or what have we been doing the past couple of days?
So, me and Simon have spent the last few days watching Doctor Who. Which sounds great, and it should have been great. It really should have. Except, for some reason, we decided that we would watch specifically the worst episodes of the modern era, just all at once.
Yeah, it was fun.
I mean, that's one word you could use.
Some of it was fun.
Some of it was fun. We'll get into that.
Yeah. This idea spawned from a previous video that I did with you, where we did a retrospective on Series 12, and I was speculating as to whether Orphan 55 is actually the worst New Who episode. So we compiled a list, didn't we?
Yeah, we looked at the IMDb ratings, episodes that we just personally didn't like, subtracted a few that were just kind of dull.
Yes, rather than outright terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so these are a list of what seemingly should be the worst episodes of Doctor Who based on a number of different factors, and then we're going to talk about whether they actually are terrible.
And there's 12 in the list, and we're going to do 6 in this episode and 6 in the next.
Yep.
Excellent.
And why are we doing 2 episodes? Because I really need to get back on that YouTube grind, and I don't care about anything.
Except quality content and subscribers, of course. You're all near
Please
and
don't
dear.
do this.
You're all near and dear to Josh's heart. And at the end of it all, each of us will crown our top pick for the worst episode ever.
That's, I mean, yeah. I think we both know what each of our picks are going to be.
Yeah, but we might change our minds through discussion and discourse.
So, shall we begin?
Yes. So our first pick was, of course, The Empty Child. It wasn't. Just before you click off this video, it wasn't.
The Empty Child is quite possibly one of the best episodes of Doctor Who, full stop.
Yeah. What we actually did though was we skipped Series 1 entirely because there's no bad episodes in there really.
No, every episode in that series is at least solid.
Yeah.
Even the ones that people generally have problems with, like the Slovene, I think most of their problems are because of the farting, which...
That's a good point. I'd forgotten about that until just now and it all came suddenly back to me. So what was our actual first pick?
Our actual first pick was from Series 2, and we looked at The Idiot's Lantern.
We did. We definitely did.
Now, I don't remember hating this episode from before our rewatch.
Yeah, I don't remember hating it either, and I don't remember particularly loving it. And
no. Having
rewatched it, I still don't hate it that much.
No, I don't have particularly strong feelings about it either way. It's kind of...
It could be better, but it could certainly be worse.
Yeah, it's okay as a Doctor Who episode. It does what it set out to. So, shall we get into the many, many notes that we made?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want this ties together for everything in Series 2. Tan and Rose make a great team. Even in the lackluster episodes that we watched, they are amazing.
Great.
Yeah.
The acting between those two is just phenomenal. I think, for the most part in the show, unless we specify, the acting is generally pretty solid.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a few exceptions to that, but...
Yeah, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah.
Oh.
I made a note that Tan and Rose are great, especially when they're talking to 50s sexists and about Jackie's sexual partners.
Oh, yeah.
Which was an interesting throwaway line.
Yeah. I mean, it is very Jackie, isn't it?
It is, and we'll get to that as well.
Yeah, we will. I think that tells you one of the episodes that we're going to be covering.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Josh, which is, has the psychic paper changed how it works? Because in this one, he seems to decide what is on it, and that was kind of the rule throughout this entire era. But in the later ones that we've seen, it seems that the person reading it reads what they want to read, and the Doctor sometimes isn't even aware of what it says until he or she looks at it again.
But then the Doctor does that in this episode as well, when he's running past that guy.
Oh yes, he becomes the King of Belgium.
Yeah.
King of Belgium, apparently. That's a good... Yeah, there's some good humour in this episode.
There is
definitely.
some really good humour. I think one of my notes was about the, humour.
Yes.
It's on my list.
Yeah, Ten does some really good sort of righteous anger in this.
He really does.
There's one scene in particular with the I am talking, I'm not listening. You can very much tell it was written for Eccleston, but he still manages to pull it off and it works.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing I did pick up on Nintendo, he doesn't like Cliff Richard. Random fact, you never know when you're going to need to find, but it's such a random detail.
Yeah, but these early ones are full of those throwaway things though.
They fade away eventually, I think.
Yes.
Which I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah. But what did you think of the villain, the Wire?
I like the idea a lot. Like, it's quite a meta villain, and we'll talk about meta-ness at several points in this probably.
Yeah.
Because the idea that the technology that you are actively using right now to watch the episode is attacking you is quite a unique one. And then I'm pretty sure that it was reused as an idea for the Bells of St. John.
Yes, we talked about that at the time, yes.
Yeah.
It's very similar, if not basically identical to...
It's eerily similar of
Yes.
the plot line.
Yeah, I thought the performance for the villain was quite sort of menacing, except for when she gets into the Wire is hungry. Then it just goes completely off the rails and ridiculous. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a ridiculous episode anyway, so
Yeah.
it gets away with it a little bit. I think the main thing that people don't like about this episode though is the removing of the face and how that doesn't really make any sense.
I mean, no.
How does anyone breathe? Is the big question, which is hanging over all of this.
That
and it's not
is a
even.
good question.
There's not even a line of dialogue of we don't know how they breathe. No one mentions it, which makes me think that
Maybe
the original plan for the CGI was that they would have little nose holes or something.
The CGI is really interesting though, because on the granny it looked surprisingly convincing, I think. Whereas then, as soon as it got onto Rose, it looks bloody terrible.
Maybe tracking dots weren't in Billy Piper's contract or something, so they had to just freehand it. Speaking of villainous performances though, Mr. Magpie is quite good as a sort of quasi forced to do things against his better judgment villain.
Yeah, I did like Mr. Magpie.
Yeah. He didn't deserve to be vaporized, really.
No, although they never do clarify like what the Wire is exactly doing to him.
That's probably the biggest problem with this episode as a whole though. It's all very vague. We never really get quite a handle on what the Wire actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird about that.
And there's little weird bits that don't really make much sense. Like Rose at one point notices the red lightning coming out of one of the TVs. Has anyone else noticed this?
Why was it there?
Does everyone? Yeah, but does everyone just assume it's normal because that's how TVs worked in the 50s, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one thing that really bugged me in this episode, and I think I talked to you about it during the episode, which was everything was filmed at an angle.
Yes, there's a lot of Dutch tilts in this.
Yeah.
It's like Thor, original Thor, in that.
Yeah, it reminded me so much of Battlefield Earth.
I've not watched Battlefield Earth, and I have no intentions to.
It's bad.
Here's a question for you. Why aren't Torchwood doing anything about this? Because they existed in this time period, and their whole thing is Queen and Country.
I think they're mentioned as one throwaway line.
I don't think they are, at least not in this episode. They're mentioned in some of the other ones that we watched, but not this one.
No, you are.
And the police chief specifically says that he's got no idea what he's doing. He's got no resources and nothing to do with this.
I mean...
Yeah, it's weird given that they're the big reveal at the end of this series.
Yeah.
The supporting cast, though, is really good.
Oh, yeah. They do a really good job of showing how scared Tommy and I think the wife's name's Rita are.
Yes,
Mr.
Rita.
Connolly.
Yes, and Tommy and Mr. Connolly in particular, very good acting.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Connolly is actually the better villain in all of this.
So do I. I really thought he was...
He's a lot more mundane, obviously, but a lot more...
He has a lot of threat behind him.
He has a lot of presence. Even though he's just some guy, you can kind of feel that terror that his family has for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he gets kicked out at the end, which is good.
But then Rose also sends Tommy after him.
Which is,
concerning.
I can see what they were going for, but
it's a bit messy.
Yes.
In its execution. There's a couple of other small details that bug me.
It took them ages to notice the flags when they came out of the TARDIS.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's that. We talked about the Doctor using the psychic paper to get past that security guard at the tower.
Yes.
How did Magpie get past him?
Oh, but the security guard wasn't looking, he just walked past.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you do actually see the security guard in shot just blatantly not doing his job.
And then there's a direct, we see that the tape that the Doctor uses to catch the wiring was one of his because it had Gallifreyan writing on.
So what's the Doctor doing with Betamax?
What did he have recorded on it that he recorded over with the wire?
Yeah. Also, if the Doctor has Betamax in the TARDIS, why doesn't he just grab a Betamax recorder rather than having to build one? But I love the Doctor building things, which we don't get nearly often enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is really
It
cool
reminds me of that bit in original Star Trek, where Spock has to build a computer out of stone knives and bearskins, I believe is the line.
I don't think I've seen that.
They're trapped in the 50s.
Oh, is that Star Trek 4?
No, it's in the original series.
Yeah, but was it one of the movies? Or
No.
Oh,
It's in the TV series.
Okay, then I haven't seen that.
Never mind. I'll show it to you later. It's great. Overall, I think this episode is fine, really.
Yeah, it's not the best, but it does its job.
Does its job. It fills in time until we get to the end of the series, basically.
Yeah, and I think this episode is also suffering because it comes immediately after some good episodes like School Reunion and stuff like that.
Yes.
And then straight after this.
It's a lackluster episode in a very solid era.
Yeah. Which brings us on to
one which I think a lot of people will be expecting on such a list.
Yeah.
Do you want to say the name?
Love and Monsters.
Love and Monsters.
Oh.
Shall we let's talk about this episode in two parts. Let's start by talking about
everything
minutes 1 through 43, and then we'll talk about the last 2 minutes at the end. For everything before the 43-minute mark in this episode, I really love this.
It's really solid. It's weirdly good.
So many people have clicked off this video if they were watching it in the first place.
Okay, let us justify.
Yeah, let's justify
why we think this episode is solid.
Let's start by saying the soundtrack is really good.
Oh, the music for this episode in particular. I mean, the music in general for this era is pretty darn great, but this episode...
Just that, when Elliot finds the TARDIS at the beginning, and you get that haunting... which I know is a recurring...
Elton.
Elton, that's it. If I could remember the characters' names, that would probably help.
Might help.
Maybe that says something. I don't know. But yes, when Elton finds the TARDIS and you get that haunting few notes, which is a recurring motif in this era, but it's very well used.
It is.
And we get some good third-party music as well, specifically Mr. Blue Sky.
Oh, the use of ELO throughout this episode in general is pretty darn great.
Little peek behind the curtain, we watched it sitting on this couch, and every time Mr. Blue Sky came on, we screamed at the top of our lungs.
It's because it's a good song.
It's a great song,
it's a brilliant song.
Great use. And there should be more third-party music in Doctor Who in general.
Yeah, it kind of dies out a bit after the RTD era.
It really does, particularly after the Master, really.
Yeah.
There's a couple of good ones with the Master, and then not so much after
the last time I remember it was when they did Rosa.
Basically, the reason that I love this episode is that it's so dumb. It's dumb and ridiculous, but it knows it, and it's playing up to that.
They set it up to be dumb. They open it in Medias Res in the middle of the action, and they purposely play up how incredibly stupid this opening scene is.
It does a Scooby-Doo homage.
Yeah. So, if you aren't on board in the first 2 minutes, you know what sort of an episode it's going to be.
Yeah, and the whole thing is framed as this sort of just crap video diary, which wouldn't be particularly interesting without the cuts away that the audience gets.
No, it's very much early YouTube.
Yes.
Which I
you live in early YouTube, don't you? Wouldn't be particularly interesting.
I strive to resurrect early YouTube.
And then there's the Linda meetings, which are completely ridiculous before the villain shows up at least.
And I like the Linda stuff though, because
it's really wholesome.
It's very wholesome, and the meta-textual stuff that they put in there as well, of just once again, this is another very meta episode. Linda as a whole is a fandom.
Yes,
and then
it's a Doctor Who fan club.
Yeah, and then the gatekeeping fan comes in and ruins it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. Which works really well in this era, because this was basically the point when Doctor Who was at its biggest, I would say. More or less around this time. I've written here that I think Linda would make a really fun D&D group.
Oh, yes. I feel like Bliss would turn out to be like, she'd be really sweet for the most part, and then she'd just suddenly break out some ridiculous spell that would kill everyone.
Yes. And then there's that scene where they're playing some ELO tracks, but no one is playing an instrument.
Oh yeah.
Literally no one. None of the movements they're doing line up with anything.
It's so bad.
It's so bad, but it's so good.
I love that.
Yeah. But then of course, the villain shows up, Victor Kennedy, as he's originally known.
Yes. Yeah, Peter Kay.
Played by the amazing Peter Kay.
He does a really good job.
He does. He knows exactly what this episode is supposed to be, I feel, and he plays to that perfectly.
And some of his lines are fantastic. I don't like to be touched physically or emotionally.
I have a question for you though. Why doesn't he just wear gloves?
I mean, that would require him to take off the gloves every time he wanted to.
Yeah. That's
chow down.
That's a good point.
Is that? No.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's just so unnecessarily mean, and it's great, and it plays really well against this kind of happy-go-lucky thing that Linda have going before that.
Yeah, they do a really great job of characterising Linda in general, and Elton especially. You really feel for him, I think, by the end of the episode.
Elton and I can't remember her name, but she's played by Moaning Myrtle from Harry Potter, of course.
It's Ursula.
Ursula, yes. The dynamic between those two is really good.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned at the time that the romance between them is actually you get hints towards it rather than it just coming out of nowhere. Yes. Particularly when she threatens to beat up Victor Kennedy, which I really love.
It's a great moment.
Yeah. That's also where we get, also in the Linda meetings, is where we get this episode's Torchwood reference of Victor Kennedy somehow has the Torchwood files.
Yeah.
Which someone presumably left them on a train or something.
I mean, either that or he hacked into Torchwood, but he never got into Unit, which raises a lot of questions.
Maybe Torchwood just have the better files.
Maybe. I mean,
all of Unit's files are just pictures of John Pertwee.
I had a question of whether Clive was in Linda at one point.
Yeah, maybe he was. Clive from season 1, episode 1, Rose. Yes.
Because Clive exclusively has images of the Doctor as the Ninth Doctor.
Yes, everyone conveniently always has the images that they need.
Yeah. So, does that... Was he going to Linda and then he got chucked out because he kept insisting that this other person was the Doctor?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe that was it, yeah. Maybe there's 13 different versions of Linda out there, each of one tracking a different Doctor.
I mean, the fifth Doctor does reference Linda in Time Crash.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
He says about how there's all these different fans and like Linda and stuff.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. What else is there to say about this episode? Jackie Tyler. Jackie Tyler. We need more Jackie Tyler.
It's done so well.
Yes.
Why is that so well?
It plays to her character perfectly. The first time we see Jackie Tyler, if you recall, in, of course, season 1, episode 1, Rose, she more or less just throws herself at this random man who's walked into her house.
And then the first time we see her in this episode, she throws herself at Elton.
Yeah, and presumably just keeps changing the same dud fuse into different plugs.
I'd like to imagine that she's just having to spend half of the time.
Yeah. Jackie has learned how to change a plug in order
just so
to get...
she can get with Elton.
Yeah.
It's... Jackie Tyler, I mean, some of the acting for that particular moment is a bit soapish.
But that's the point of it all. It feeds into this ridiculous nature of the episode. Because let's not forget, this episode is based off a child's drawing.
Yes.
It had to be ridiculous.
Yeah. And I think they do a really good job of characterising Jackie, considering that they're going for this
Yeah,
term.
and you do get some deeper moments with her, of her really missing Rose and worrying for her. 'Cause, you know, of course she would.
Yeah.
There's a good quote that Elton has where he says, the Doctor's machine, the most beautiful sound in the world. Yes. Just yes, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I also like how Elton's video diary, most of those stories anyone in London could tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made it. There's one note that I made. Lights. Victor Kennedy.
Oh yeah.
Lights. Somewhat. Do they just have a person manning the light switch?
Yeah. They Victor Kennedy hired a guy and then absorbed him.
Brilliant.
Yeah. But well, let's talk about the Absorbaloff as well when he finally transforms. Again, based off a child's drawing. I think of the drawing that they had, that was the best version of it they could make because it, like, from a technical standpoint, it looks excellent.
Yeah, like the faces in it in particular are pretty well managed. Yeah,
if you look carefully at it, you can tell that on the wide shots, like, it's a fake face there.
Yeah.
And then they do a hard close-up for when it has to talk, obviously.
But that's what TV would have to do.
Yeah, but I think it looks realistic enough that at the time you see it, you don't really think about it too much. I think it's a brilliant design and no one will tell me different. Again, for being campy and ridiculous and over the top.
Yeah, I think if they weren't going for the campy, ridiculous tone, then having the design for the Hoiks as the design for the Absorbaloff.
The Hoiks being the creature from the Scooby-Doo bit.
2 seconds.
Yeah, where they chase it around with the buckets. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that is a really great design that they don't use enough. I think the only other 2 times it appears...
It's in a bar at some point, isn't it? I think it was in a space bar with Captain Jack. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
I think that's the half. I know it's in the Pandorica Opens, and I know it appears in Torchwood Series 1's finale. Because I know too much about all of this stuff.
Yeah, you really do.
Oh, what is my life?
So yeah, the monster design is excellent for the tone that they set.
Yeah, for the tone.
Or rather, the monster design sets the excellent tone, I suppose, because they had one before the other.
Yeah.
But it kind of it doesn't surprise me that they never ran that competition again, though.
No, the weird fast forwarding of the Absorbaloff though is a bit weird. Like,
look, Peter Kay is an amazing comedian, but he's not the most agile guy in the world, maybe.
No, and stick him in a bunch of prosthetics, it's going to be even harder.
But he still manages to act from under all of that as well.
He really does. It's
a great performance.
And then when Ten and Rose actually show up as well, like the banter between all of them is pretty good.
Yeah, I like the Rose having a go at Elton when there's the Absorbaloff just standing right there. I also like how we don't really know what his species is called. Like,
no.
Elton just goes through a bunch and settles on Absorbaloff, and the Absorbaloff likes that too.
And then the Doctor happens to do it as well, and happens to land on the same thing.
There's also that very dumb joke about how he's not from Raxacoricophila Pretorius.
He's from
Clom.
I still love that joke.
And it comes back up again in Series 4, because Clom's gone. Who'd want Clom?
Yeah. They have to rescue Clom.
But shall we talk about the last 2 minutes of this episode?
I mean, do we have to? We were having such a nice time.
So, I know that the YouTube algorithm is very important to you. Am I allowed to swear in this video?
I mean, I've already done it.
Okay. Because, really, I have one question about this end scene. What the fuck? If you haven't seen Love and Monsters recently, this scene is on YouTube, and you don't really need the rest of the context of the episode. Just pause this video, search Love and Monsters end scene, watch the 2 minutes, and then come back here. Right, you've done that. Good.
I am sorry.
Yeah, I am as well. But again, what is any of that?
The last note that I have on my sheet is if it weren't for the paving slab.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. And it's horrifying for such a number of reasons. First of all, there's a weird sex joke.
Yeah, it's like the Doctor Who does sex jokes occasionally, but like it's
not about paving slabs generally.
No, and it's very rarely that explicit about like.
It really sends a shiver down your spine. But then you get into more the existential horror of it, where she says that she can't age or die.
Yes.
And then there's the idea that Elton is in love with a paving slab which he keeps in his office, which he presumably can't show to anyone.
No.
So he is now doomed to be in love with a paving slab for the rest of his natural life.
I mean, assuming that he is still in love with it, if he ever falls out of love, what will he do?
Exactly, and her entire view of the world is controlled by him. Literally her view of the world, because he can just turn and face her. She doesn't even have that level of control over herself. And then...
Oh, it's so bad of the fate.
And probably the most horrifying part about it, I think, is that the Doctor did this on purpose.
Yeah.
She was dead, and he brought her back to this living hell for all of eternity.
She had been absorbed into the earth.
Yes, this is like you can go on about destroying or not destroying Gallifrey, which he technically had done at this point in the canon.
Yeah.
All day long. This is the most evil act the Doctor has ever performed.
Like, and then the weird thing is, we see the Doctor do this technically a couple of times by just happening to make people immortal throughout the show.
Yeah,
not
but this is,
in these.
But
like,
at least Ashilda can walk and talk.
Yeah, Ashilda can walk and talk. Jack, technically, if you want to believe Russell T Davies, personally, I don't accept that he is the face of Bo, but if you do, Jack dies.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's that. But technically speaking, Ursula's going to be there at the end of time.
Yeah, but presumably the slab can be physically destroyed. So,
I mean,
but we don't know. And of course, no one will ever revisit this because why would you?
I really hope no one does.
So no, this
Oh.
So to wrap up my feelings on this episode, this is amazing for an episode based on a child's drawing, except for that last 2 minutes. What were they thinking?
If it wasn't for the last 2 minutes, then this is generally a pretty good episode.
Oh, God. Right. Our next episode is good as well, isn't it?
This is one of the worst episodes of Doctor Who, just full stop, in my opinion.
We're still in Series 2 here. There's a lot of Series 2 in this list, but we will move on from it soon.
Yeah.
This is Fear Her.
Oh, it's the penultimate episode before the 2-part finale, and it sucks.
It really does. So the setting is dull for a start. It's
the far
future of 2012. Yeah, the bold future. But it's just set on a street.
A street. I mean, there is a magic old lady on the street.
There is so this kicks off with a magic old lady wandering up and down, who knows that someone's about to be trapped in a drawing, but not quite sure who. So presumably she has some level of ESP which is never explained.
Yeah, they
forget Torchwood or the Sarah Jane Adventures. I want to spin off about that psychic old lady.
They never bring her up.
Yeah.
And it's so bad.
Yeah. The Doctor even describes the street as thoroughly ordinary, which is, accurate but also very underwhelming.
One note that I do have on here is racism × 2.
Would you want to explain your racism ×2 now, Josh?
Okay. So first off, there's the scene where all of the residents of the street are gathering, and the woman immediately blames the only black guy, despite there being another council worker right next to him.
Yeah, I will briefly interrupt you here as well to say that the council worker is the only interesting supporting character in all of this.
He really is. He's the best character in that episode.
So that's the first instance of potential racism in this episode. What's the second?
The second would be when Rose realises that it must be a children's drawing because of the... I can't remember exactly.
It's the art style of it?
The arts or something.
Yeah.
And she immediately goes for the black child. Like, it's established that there is multiple children living on this street.
Yeah. I think that's more to do with sinister music than it is to do with skin colour, though.
Yeah,
which is not any better.
Rose didn't hear the sinister music, did she?
Other than the road worker, there's not an interesting supporting character in this.
No. This is one of the episodes where the acting is off.
The one thing that I found at least vaguely compelling was that the mum does seem genuinely concerned and worried about her daughter. That's about as far as it goes for her character, though.
Other than the times where she's told not to leave
Yes,
her.
she's also a terrible mum and should not be trusted with a child, because twice she's told not to leave her kid alone and she just wanders off to do something.
And she knows that the child has these abilities.
Yes, she knows this child can trap people in drawings.
And, especially after the first time where you find out this child has secret art supplies.
Twice. She has 2 sets of secret art supplies.
She has multiple sets of secret art supplies.
This whole thing could have been avoided if her mum had just stopped buying her pencils.
The whole thing could have been avoided if the Doctor had just gone, "Oh, you're Isolus and you're lost. I can take you home."
Yes, because that's when everything sort of kicks off, doesn't it? He goes away and she traps him because he thinks he's mean, which He sort of is, because he just put a child to sleep without asking neither her permission nor the permission of her parent.
Yeah.
Which has very interesting ethical implications.
That happens more than once in the run of episodes that we're going to cover. And,
yeah. But let's talk about the villains of this, I guess. The graphite monster, for starters. Looks
yes,
awful.
the scribble ball.
It looks awful, and the Doctor kills it with the sonic screwdriver, which is not
Raises
supposed
the
to be a
question.
weapon.
Yeah.
He says that it's never alive, but half the things the Doctor fights aren't alive.
Yeah,
so that's not really fair.
Fairly dodgy. Also, it still bugs me the way that he instantly rubs it out with a pencil eraser.
Oh, yeah,
That's not how pencil erasers work. Everyone who's ever used one will tell you it doesn't immediately rub things out.
They're like solid graphite in your hand as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess that's a function of the setting being so dull. There's literally nothing else for him to use.
Yeah,
You can't like rip open a control panel because they're on a street. Yeah. Drawings aren't scary, and neither is this kid.
No, I've literally got a note here that says Chloe doesn't act.
No, she really doesn't. It's tricky with kid actors because there's some genuinely really good kid actors in various episodes of Doctor Who.
Yeah, like literally one season later they get a really good kid actor to be in Utopia.
Yeah.
But then this one...
Yeah, it just doesn't come together in this one. And I don't know whether that's like a factor of her or a factor of the direction. Because I would imagine directing for kids is really hard as well.
Probably.
So it's hard to point at something which isn't there and get a kid to react to it, maybe?
But then
I don't know.
There's only one scene where Chloe has to react to any CGI.
Is it even CGI? Because we're talking about the dad. The dad. We'll get to that in a minute. Coming down the stairs.
I meant the Isolus coming in through the window.
Oh yeah.
Which is about 6 seconds, I believe.
Yeah, it's a very effect light episode as well. This feels like the budget ran out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Which is impressive because Love and Monsters was the episode they made because the budget ran out.
Interesting. They couldn't even afford a creature design.
No.
They had to outsource it to some kid. For an episode called Fear Her, nothing is particularly scary in it. But then yes, we also have the drawing of the abusive dad.
Yes.
Through line through this, there's a lot of through lines through this and The Idiot's Lantern, mainly just being set
Abusive
on streets.
dads.
The other one being abusive dads.
And also, is this another meta episode with commentaries about art? Creation of worlds?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think I said this to you at the time, but this could have been a much more interesting episode if it was framed around the idea of the abusive dad.
Absolutely.
Which sounds very terrible out of context, but it's this idea of... Because the monster that comes out of the closet isn't her actual dad, it's this version of her father that exists in her nightmares, which is, as a concept, is terrifying.
Yeah.
But it gets so little screen time in this episode and it doesn't come across at all.
And I remember when you said that first, I thought that sounds almost a bit Torchwoody.
It's very dark, definitely.
But then I also remembered that the Sarah Jane Adventures literally had a creature called the Nightmare Man who trapped you in your nightmares. So evidently you can do it in a way that would be acceptable for families.
It might have been... Yeah, maybe it was tricky to do. Maybe that was even the original idea and it was just scaled back to make it a bit more sort of family friendly.
I don't know, this
Also,
episode is just very dull.
Also, the Isolus live off love, question mark?
Yeah, this is another thing that...
It's very twee.
It's gonna come up a lot. Love is
the real power.
Love is a weirdly common theme in these episodes.
Yeah. I also like how that when Chloe steals the entire stadium full of people, including poor Bob.
Oh, no, not you too, Bob. I love the delivery on that line because the presenter gives doesn't care.
No one thinks to tell the torchbearer.
No.
He's still running to an empty stadium.
Just the image of him pulling up in there.
Is this the wrong day?
Am I early?
Yeah, probably the best part of this episode, though, is that we get a couple of little hints as to the Doctor's past.
Yeah.
He mentioned that he was a father. Yeah. The only other redeeming feature of this really is that there's a few good humorous beats, a lot of which are in YouTube compilations all over the internet. There's the marmalade, where he just sticks his finger in it, and Rose is like, "What are you doing?"
And the only humorous bit which doesn't involve the Doctor
Yeah.
You've just taken a council axe out of a council van
Yeah.
and you're digging into a council road. I'm reporting you to the council.
See, the councilman is the best part of this episode.
He is legitimately the best bit,
Yeah.
and he's in it for like 5 minutes at most.
But to round this up, this episode is just really boring.
It's real boring.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about it other than that it's just boring.
Apparently we're the only creatures in the galaxy that make edible ball bearings.
I mean, I can believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, shall we leave Series 2 behind
Let's do.
for the dregs of history?
Oh, the dregs.
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
No. The Lazarus Experiment. Ah, the most scientific of all of the Doctor Who episodes that we covered.
Okay, so for context, I study biology. Josh doesn't. But
I don't, but I know
he
vaguely
still
about
knew
science.
enough about this to know that everything in this is wrong.
Yeah.
I literally have a note here that says none of this is how science works.
I like learning about science,
Yeah.
so I spend a lot of time reading about all of this
Yeah.
sort of stuff, and it's just all incorrect.
Let's start at the very beginning though, where we have that common trope where where Martha's mother calls her to tell her that her sister is on TV, but doesn't tell her what channel, of course.
Yep.
But she still finds it straight away.
Yeah, that's in the middle of the "oh yes, I'm totally leaving you, Martha" part of the episode, which doesn't really go anywhere.
And the old man makeup in this is really bad as well.
Yeah, it is a bit.
It's a bad episode for effects, I think.
Yeah, just in general.
Yeah, there's a few sneaky Mr. Saxon references in there. Probably the heaviest in this series.
There's a lot of Mr. Saxon references.
Yeah.
I don't think you can watch this episode without picking up on them.
Shall we talk about Lazarus though?
Okay.
First of all, he has to be the most conveniently named man in the entire universe.
Yes.
That is his actual name.
Yeah, Richard Lazarus was his name. Like, what are the odds?
And he's just a creep, really.
He really is. Like, he creeps on Tosh, he creeps on random women at the parties.
Yeah.
And the old
and all
woman.
of his employees who are flicking switches are attractive young women as well, which raises questions when everything goes wrong and none of them seem to know what to do. So do any of them actually have any qualifications, or did he just pick them off the street?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there is some good things about Lazarus. The writing, whenever he's talking about the war, is generally pretty darn strong.
Yes.
Whenever he's talking to an old person, actually, like
it's Mark Gatiss, isn't it?
Yeah, Mark Gatiss.
Yeah, he portrays this very well with very limited script.
Yeah, whenever he talks to his wife.
I want to say wife. I genuinely don't know though. Yeah.
Those are probably the best moments in this episode.
Yeah, there's not much episode to this, to be honest.
No, it's very simplistic.
He gets transformed into a monster, and then it's just the Doctor trying to murder him for the rest of it, which is very un-Doctor. It's probably the worst thing about this episode, in my opinion. The Doctor is just a murderer and a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Because here we have this 70-year-old man trying to extend his life. Okay, yeah, he's not doing a great job of it, and he's sucking the life out of people, but also it feels weird him being lectured by a 900-year-old Time Lord.
Yeah, it does.
Let's talk about the science, though.
Do we have to?
Yes. So first of all, no one seems to know what this machine does except for Lazarus. So,
and even he doesn't seem to know half the time.
So and it would have exploded if it wasn't for the Doctor. So
I
presumably
believe the exact quote was a blender?
Yes. So presumably he didn't even turn it on.
No, there's clearly been no human testing.
There's no human testing, but he didn't even turn it on with no one in it, and just to test that it didn't explode. That's your most basic level thing. You do that with an oven, let alone a machine to make you younger, before you get in it personally.
Oh, but sound waves will destabilize.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. It uses sound waves to alter your DNA,
which. It makes no sense how this machine works. At one point it's established that it's absorbing energy from somewhere.
Presumably from those pylons on the outside, but
why?
It's so vague.
Where from? And then sound waves can't just restructure someone's DNA.
No.
That's not how it works. And then also, they clearly show effects of water spilling out of the top of the machine.
Yes, but disappears when it turns off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
Also, how has he got this far into the development of this thing and no one knows even vaguely what it does?
Yeah.
There's no prior research that he's published on this. He's not basing it off anyone else's work.
He's literally brought it to show the investors in that episode.
Yeah.
That's the point of the episode.
Yeah. And he gathers everyone that he would potentially sell it to into one room around this highly explosive device.
Yes. The mega binder.
Because you don't even need to show people it to sell it.
No.
You just say, hello, I'm Richard Lazarus. Last week I was 70 years old, now look at me.
Hey, if you don't trust me, here's a DNA test.
Given that it's just his DNA, he changes back and forth very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, he also changes back and forth in terms of clothes very quickly.
He does.
Like, does he just have loads of suits scattered around?
I can believe he's the sort of person that would, though.
But it's
you've
not
got to
his
have a quick
building,
change.
is it?
You've got to have a quick change of clothes after you've been creeping on people.
I mean, sure.
Ooh, let's not go too far down that route. Yeah. Also, his DNA gives off an energy signature.
Yes, and he absorbs the life energy out of people.
Yes, just life energy. That's the point where the scriptwriter gave up on trying to make it sound scientific.
Yeah, they just couldn't be bothered.
Also, he turns into a weird monster with a human face and a scorpion tail rather than just a bag of flesh and bones on the floor.
Yeah, and that monster is supposed to be a different option that humanity could have potentially evolved into.
Yeah,
but evolution decided against, which isn't how evolution works.
I don't want to get too technical with how evolution works, but just no. Basically, no.
The exact note that I wrote is CGI shit.
It really is. Is it the human face?
I think it is.
Yeah.
Because the tail looks fine.
Yeah, it looks as fine as anything else in this era did, I guess.
Yeah.
The face reminds me of like the very, very early days of full 3D in video games. Like your early Tomb Raiders. You had this like block head with then a human face just 2D plastered over the top of it. It looks like that.
It's real bad.
Except somehow worse.
One thing I did pick up on in this episode is how Francine, Martha's mother, is continuously acting as if Martha and the Doctor must have this ancient history sort of thing and this ongoing thing. It's, according to the Doctor, been one night.
Yeah, so as far as she knows, she's just had a one-night stand with this guy. Yeah, but there was that guy who presumably works for Harold Saxon, but I like to think he just likes to throw shade at people, just not even people that he knows, who just sidles up to, what's her name, Francine? Francine at the party and says, well, your daughter should choose her friends more carefully.
It's the most random thing.
It's also the tackiest dialogue in this, I think.
Yeah. I think the pacing in this episode is one thing that's really dodgy.
It is, yeah.
Like, because there's so little plot going on.
Yeah.
It's just thrown all over the place. And no one knows what's happening.
Yeah, and then it creeps along very slowly at first, and then it's just a series of attempts to kill a man.
Yeah.
Also, how did you fit up that staircase? That spiral staircase, which Martha and her sister somehow ran up in high heels.
Okay, now we're getting
into the...
And
then he fits up it, just and he's there.
As the monster.
Also, where does all his mass come from? If it's just changing his DNA, he should be the same size.
Yeah. I mean, at one point he somehow magically transforms into the creature inside an ambulance, which is smaller than the creature, mind.
Yes.
Then kills everything in the ambulance, leaves the ambulance and goes into the cathedral. And apparently he took a blanket with him?
Yes. Presumably got stuck to his scorpion tail.
I wrote on 2 separate occasions in this one, where are the police and are the police coming?
Yes. Yeah, basically. Also, this building has a security system which locks everyone inside.
Yeah, that's a weirdly common thing in like these sorts of things. Just why?
Well, because you have to have the contrivance for why people don't just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, Olive Lady, as I wrote her down.
Oh yeah.
The woman who is more.
Oh, there's no danger.
And then she literally just stands perfectly still and gets killed, and the Doctor does nothing to stop it. Then 5 seconds later, as soon as Lazarus threatens like Leo and Francine.
Yeah. Also, Leo took that flying table like a champ.
Oh yeah.
That should have broken his spine in half. Table. And then he's clutching his head, and nothing remotely hit him there.
No, it's.
But we are nitpicking now.
Yeah, this is particularly nitpicky.
It's just very poorly plotted, and
Yeah.
none of it really comes together very well.
No, and the science is complete rubbish.
Yeah, even by the standards of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Next up, we move and we jump Series 4 because
Series 4 is excellent.
Series 4 is fantastic. I genuinely can't think of a bad episode in Series 4.
There are not bad episodes in Series 4.
No. And so you're the one who actually picked this episode.
Well, actually, this is actually the lowest rated on IMDb in Series 5,
Okay.
which is our first series with Matt Smith, of course. But I think it's one that I would have wanted to talk about anyway. This is the first Dalek episode on this list, but not the last one.
No.
It is Victory of the Daleks.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either, but there's some very questionable decisions in here. Let's start with the founding premise of this episode. No one in their wildest dreams would believe that a Dalek could be made in World War II.
I mean, no, but if your scientist comes up to you with a brand new piece of technology,
Yeah, sure.
you're just going to accept that that has been invented by the scientist.
But you think about if you showed someone in the 40s a box that could have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Like, forget the lasers, forget the fact that it can move around autonomously without any pilot or remote control or anything. Just the fact that a piece of machinery can talk to you like a human being, is insane.
Yeah, it is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
And then it can just annihilate
It's the basic
Messerschmitts from far outside the range of anything that anyone has ever conceived of.
Yeah, it just completely obliterates them.
Yeah, which of course a Dalek would be able to do.
Yeah.
It builds up to that capability of Daleks which we never see anywhere else.
Yeah,
really.
I'm pretty sure that is the only time in from this point onwards where the Daleks are actually
able
to
to
shoot things.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, but I don't think the premise makes sense at all. Also, I want to know, did anyone ask the scientist what the plunger was for?
I hadn't considered this.
Whilst the premise doesn't make any sense, I do quite like the idea of a secretarial Dalek.
It actually makes a really interesting reference to the classic era, because I think it's Power of the Daleks, where there's a very famous line from the Daleks, which is, "I am your servant."
Right, yeah, okay.
And obviously, I am your soldier.
Of course, we get here the immortal line, "Would you care for some tea?"
That line is brilliant.
As well, it's my second favourite in this, after "Please desist from striking me."
Yes. I mean, the Daleks' plan here, it's not the worst plan.
Yeah, it's interesting. I will give it that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is, I think, the only time in the modern era where they actually succeed.
Yes, hence Victory of the Daleks. Matt Smith is amazing in this episode.
Oh, he is.
I think this is the episode that sold me on him originally. You can believe, he's in his 20s or his 30s when he was playing this, but you can believe that he is this ancient being that has been fighting the Daleks forever.
I think I mentioned when I reviewed every season of Doctor Who, linked probably somewhere, that I didn't initially like Smith when we first went into it because I was 10 and I had a bias. But going back and rewatching these episodes now, he is phenomenal.
Just that anger and that fury and everything with the Jammy Dodger.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Well, speaking of that, we go to the Dalek ship. It's just a big steel room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The design of the Dalek... They spent all the money on the war room.
They really did, yes.
And on Churchill. Churchill in this episode...
He's really good.
He's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that they don't really get into him about is how A, he was sometimes a bit nasty to people and a racist.
Yeah, but...
And B, he drank a lot.
And everyone smoked like chimneys.
Yeah.
You would have barely been able to see in that war room from the amount of smoke in the air.
Come to think of it, that first reveal of, the second reveal of the Daleks, where the Doctor's shown.
Yes.
Were those Messerschmitts attacking in the middle of the day?
They were. Also, throughout this episode, the Nazis keep sending planes to London, but they all presumably keep getting disintegrated.
Yeah, I mean...
the Nazis were relentless, but they didn't have unlimited planes.
No.
They if things had gone that badly for them, they presumably would have rethought their strategy.
Yeah,
and tried to get some intel as to what these things were.
What the hell was destroying everything for them?
Yeah. Speaking of intel, though, did you like that bit where the RAF somehow spot a Dalek ship from behind the moon?
How did they do it?
Yeah. Which had presumably been there for years, if not months, if not years.
Certainly. It would have had to have been at least 1 month.
Yeah.
Because that's when Bracewell first came to Churchill with the Daleks.
Yeah. I liked the bit with the Spitfires, the Danny Boy to the Doctor. It's ridiculous.
It's really dumb.
But it knows it's dumb, though.
I mean, yeah, but
also they built those things remarkably fast, like within minutes.
Magical Spitfires, essentially.
And I think there's even a throwaway line of how they have to get the equipment from Bracewell's lab to the runways, to the airfield, which would have taken longer than everything else put together. Yeah, I've got a few other little nitpicks about this. There's some of the disintegration effects of the other Daleks doesn't look great.
Yeah.
My main problem with this, though, is that I don't like the, what did you call them? The Mighty Morphing Power Daleks?
The Mighty Morphing Power Daleks, yes. The Progenitor Daleks.
And the concept of Progenitor Daleks is really good, but they just don't look good.
Yeah, the design... There's some interesting elements to it. Like, I had a book that went into a massive amount of detail on them back in 2010 or 2011 or something.
Yeah.
And like the back area has ridges on it so that it could open up to reveal new weaponry. But because of how hated they were in this episode, they were never used in any significant way.
Yeah. They appear in the series finale of this, but not certainly not together after that. We get the Supreme on its own a couple of times, I think.
Yeah, and I think the drone appears a couple of times.
But not to any significant degree.
I'm really curious as to what an Eternal Dalek is. He's the only one with black bumps, every other one has grey. And like all of the others are named after a function, and then he's just eternal.
Yeah. Who knows? No one, because we will never find out.
No.
Also, the Daleks rig Gracewell up as a bomb, which is a very Dalek thing to do.
Yeah.
But how does him proving that he's human help?
I literally wrote, if something can tell you that it's not something, then it isn't?
Yes.
So, by Bracewell believing it's the placebo effect.
Yes, you use the placebo effect to disarm a bomb.
It's...
Also, the...
Impressive.
Also, Amy is the one that manages to convince him that he's human in the end by asking him if he's ever fancied someone that he shouldn't have. What I like about this is that if the Daleks had picked someone more boring to harvest memories from, the world would have ended.
Yeah.
If he'd said,
nope.
No, not really.
Also, like, Amy's reasoning for asking that comes out of nowhere because the Doctor,
there's no hints towards that either.
The Doctor has been asking continuous questions about emotional stuff and then goes, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Why isn't it working?
I would say that the pain of World War and your parents being dead is more humanising than having a crush that you maybe shouldn't.
No, only humans have crushes on people who they should. I mean,
it's like edible ball bearings, it's unique to humanity.
One big question, who is someone that you shouldn't have a crush on?
Oh, well.
Is there a rule?
I don't want to explain the meaning of love to you, Josh. We don't have enough space on your SD card.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
But yeah, overall, this episode it's got some weird ideas in it, which some of them kind of work, a lot of them don't. But overall, as an episode, I think it's okay.
I think it's okay.
It doesn't deserve to be as low rated as it is on IMDb.
No, I think it's treated a lot harsher purely because of the Progenitor Daleks.
Yes. Would you say that this episode marks the decline of the Daleks in the Moffat era?
Absolutely. From here on, well, you're going to see.
I believe it's our very next episode, in fact.
Oh, I don't want to talk about it.
This is Josh's favourite episode. He loves this one. Anyone that's watched his channel before or watched him talk about Doctor Who before will know how much he loves this episode.
This is the episode that I'm pretty sure we both wrote the most notes for.
No, I wrote more for one later on, but...
Okay, this is the episode that I certainly wrote the most notes for. In fact, I
did write the most for this one.
I had to change the way I was writing my notes in order to get it all on one sheet of paper.
The episode is, of course, Asylum of the Daleks, which is potentially a controversial pick because it's not definitely not universally hated, and has
in fact quite a lot of people really like this episode.
And it's fairly highly rated on IMDb. But well, what's the core of it for you, Josh? Why do you hate this episode?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Shall we start with what's good? Because
sure,
I think
let's start with what works.
I want to give this episode a fair run.
Okay. The cast is really good.
Yes.
The acting is really good. Some of the scripting, we're talking about good things though.
Yeah.
The cast is really good. The Doctor, Amy, and Rory, all spectacular. This is the first introduction of Oswin/Clara, and
I think this is probably my favourite interpretation of Clara. My favourite version of her in the entire show.
I can certainly agree with that. I've not seen a lot of Clara stuff recently, other than the other episodes we watched with her in them. But yeah, she does a really good job in this.
And I think the episode is shot beautifully.
Yes, the actual asylum itself looks... It just looks brilliant.
Yeah,
it's
in particular...
spooky and decaying, and nothing really works properly. And
the intensive care unit, the lighting that they use in that is superb.
Yes. For just a series of rooms full of Daleks, it all feels distinct, and there's this kind of escalation as they go further and further into it. Yeah. What else works really well?
I think the music was pretty good.
Yes, another solid episode for music. Not enough ELO for my liking, but probably wouldn't have fit the tone.
No, probably not. This is the thing though, it's Murray Gold still on the music, and I don't think Murray Gold ever produced a bad soundtrack for Doctor Who.
No, probably not. It got a little bit repetitive, I would argue, but nothing bad, definitely.
And then the only other two things that I have to say that are positive are that the reveal at the end of the episode of Oswin is pretty good.
It's amazing. So
and
that's coming back to the cast actually.
Great.
Nicholas Briggs is amazing.
He
when he's talking as the Oswin Dalek, you can feel that emotion.
Every Dalek
which is weird
really
through that
distinct.
Filter and Dalek cadence. Yeah, like oh my god.
It's every single Dalek feels distinct, and then Oswin's in particular, like
it does feel like a human who's trapped inside a Dalek.
Yeah,
which is what it should feel like, because it is. What's your other positive thing? You had one more.
The editing for that sequence.
Yes, where it cuts back mid-line.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that it's now I am a Dalek sort of thing.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Okay. What's bad about this?
Everything else.
Okay, literally everything.
Literally everything.
Well, I have a note on my sheet of paper here which says, suddenly, divorce plot.
I mean, yes.
So the last time we saw Amy and Rory,
they were sitting down for Christmas dinner with the Doctor. Everything was fine. Yeah. And if you're going to bring up Pond Life, there's a very minor detail here. Pond Life technically was aired between the Christmas special and Asylum of the Daleks. And it does show Amy kicking out Rory. We get no reasons why, and Pond Life was viewed by about 20,000 people in the UK alone in that time span. The episode Asylum of the Daleks was viewed by, I believe, 6 million worldwide on release day?
Yeah, I had not heard of Pond Life until just now.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. No one knows that it exists.
And even that doesn't sound like it adds much to anything.
It doesn't. It's literally just one shot of Amy throwing a bin bag out after Rory.
Right. Amy does not come across well in any of this.
She really...
So let's talk about the reason. Well, the reason. So the reason that's given for this is that something with all the childbirth stuff at Demon's Run, they did something to her which means she can't have children anymore, which wasn't established in any previous episodes,
before.
Was it?
No, it's brand new plot line which is brought up right now, never comes up again.
Yeah. But since she knows that she can't have kids, and she knows that Rory really wants kids, she decides, without consulting Rory at all, that the best thing for both of them is to start acting like a really horrible person and to kick him out.
Yeah.
And Rory is justifiably miffed by this, I think.
And the worst part about it is that when you watch back Series 6, they make it very clear that them not directly raising Melody as a child was okay.
Yeah.
Because of them getting to raise her.
Also, you can adopt kids.
Exactly.
Like, there's so many other options. insane.
And all of this...
And the one thing we know about, like, Rory's defining attribute as a character is that he loves Amy and wants to be with her.
And the worst part about this is, like, they are ready to sign divorce papers at the start of the episode.
Yeah, they literally sign them,
Yeah, that takes, like, about half a year, a little over, in order to be able to do. It gets resolved in a 2-minute conversation.
But
they could have solved the whole thing.
But, I mean, I say does it, it actually does. But I don't think it can be. In that if you spent 6 months, deliberately or otherwise, hating someone, it's really difficult to come back from that.
I agree.
Like,
but
they've destroyed their relationship.
But
and,
the episode treats it like it's fine.
Yeah.
Because now they've had their 2-minute conversation.
Yeah.
Another problem with the divorce plot is Amy losing her wristband. Because the reason why that happens is because of the human Dalek creatures.
Yes, which are terrible and look bad.
They are terrible, they look bad, and all of these things take up so much time that we don't get any time with the Daleks.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Which are in the title of the episode. This episode was billed under the premise that it had brought back every Dalek ever, and that it was going to be this big Dalek thing. The Daleks hardly appear.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole load of much smaller issues than the big structural ones.
I have a question, which is how many Dalek bus drivers are there?
Yes.
Because the Doctor and Amy both had targeted attacks made against them to be captured by the Daleks. Rory just gets on a bus. So either there's only one Dalek bus driver and they knew somehow he would get on that particular bus, or they put out like 50 of them just to maximise the odds. Yes.
All of London.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is in London at that point, isn't it?
So yeah.
Oh yeah, Amy's also now a model.
She is, yes. I mean, she was a kissogram before, so maybe that's a step up.
Yeah, and then...
Amy's career trajectories of most of the companions don't make a lot of sense, let's be honest.
I mean, they do up until Amy.
Yes, it's a Moffat thing though, I think.
Yeah. Also,
speaking of Moffat, no Dalek in the Moffat era after Victory of the Daleks can aim at all.
No, there is literally a sequence where Rory power slides through a room.
Also, that sequence has 3 hard cuts in it, because he did not have enough momentum to get under that door.
The room is full of Daleks and they don't shoot him.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've got a load of little things here, but...
I have a bunch of little things.
What do Daleks do with their prisoners?
Mm.
There's specific mention of Dalek prison camps. What do the prisoners do there?
Mm.
Why do Daleks take prisoners?
Who knows? It's revealed at the start that the planet that the Doctor was on was Skaro. How is Skaro there when it was destroyed? A, in remembrance of the Daleks, and B, in the Time War.
It was destroyed twice. It's a real Gallifrey situation.
Yeah. Oh dear.
The Dalek Asylum itself is an interesting concept, and as we've said, all the sets look great. It doesn't really make any sense, though.
No. One of the things the reason why the Daleks have it is because it's offensive to destroy such divine hatred, which they literally did in the last Dalek episode.
They destroyed a bunch of impure Daleks. Yeah. I guess by Dalek philosophy, if you can say that. Those two things aren't really the same, but it's very contrived.
There's an entire story arc in the classic era about Dalek civil war.
Yes.
So
it's very weird.
I think it would have worked far better if it had been a Cyberman asylum.
But then the end reveal would have been too predictable. Because that's what Cybermen do. Daleks aren't generally known for turning people into them, except for that time that they've done that.
Yeah, it might have made it more predictable, but it just makes more sense with the MO of the Cybermen.
Yeah. This is also the first mention we get of the Daleks calling the Doctor the Predator.
I believe they only mention it once after this as well.
It's a terrible name. It really is. It's like, why? The Oncoming Storm was a perfectly good...
It was fine.
Yeah. You know what? The more we talk about this, the more I'm hating this episode as well.
Yeah. Why is the button to deactivate the force field
inside the force field? Given that we know that every Dalek is a genius, so you're giving a bunch of insane geniuses the key to their own selves.
And you can't even say that the Daleks inside the asylum aren't smart enough to do it, because they were smart enough to use Dalek technology to turn Oswin into a full Dalek.
Yeah.
So, they could have escaped at any time.
Yeah, it's a strange one. It really is.
There are so many more issues with this episode. I have an insane amount of lists. Daleks have a parliament, which implies that they have a political debates.
Yeah.
And that they
so is that Prime Minister elected?
I don't know.
Do Daleks have political parties?
I mean...
Maybe that's how the Dalek Civil War started. There were Dalek Tories and there were Dalek Conservatives. Or whichever. Is that? Wait, that's about the same thing. I don't live in the UK, I don't remember most of this stuff. There are Dalek Conservatives and Dalek Labour, and they just hate each other.
Oh, that's... Why? Just why? This episode has so much wrong. I will probably...
The foreshadowing with the milk was good.
The foreshadowing with the milk was good.
Yeah.
As I said, the reveal itself is handled pretty well.
Yeah.
I might genuinely make a full-on essay about this video.
I think you could. There's enough material in it to do so.
Yeah. Because,
yeah.
I mean, for one thing, I just dislike it that much.
I think this is a solid episode, but I fully agree there are a lot of bad elements in it.
I feel like it's more... There are overwhelmingly bad elements, and there are a couple of good elements that try to save it, but they are nowhere near enough.
I can 100% see why you think that. But
there's a lot of things in my notes which we haven't got into, and we probably won't because of time.
Probably shouldn't. So.
Yeah. I'm going to save it for another video where I just complain about Asylum of the Daleks for like an hour.
Yeah. But is that the end of part 1 then? Amazing teaser for future content.
I believe that is. We have done 6 episodes of really bad Doctor Who.
Well, they weren't really bad.
No.
Most of them are okay.
Yeah.
Which, we discussed this before, we think it reflects the overall quality of the Tennant era, that even the bad episodes, for the most part, aren't terrible.
Too bad.
Except for Fear Her.
Yeah. That's...
Yeah.
real bad.
But on that note, like and subscribe for more great content like this. Subscribe if you want to see Josh's review of full review of Asylum of the Daleks. There's going to be videos to click on here and here. This one up here, that's our Series 12 retrospective of Doctor Who, isn't it, Josh? You're going to put that in.
Sure.
And this one down here, that's a little something different. That's something from Josh's personal life, because he does other things on this channel other than just talk about Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be an orb over here to subscribe. But come back next week.
Sure.
Come back next week.
Maybe earlier. Who knows?
Back next week, or whenever Josh bothers to edit this together. Come back next week for part 2, where we dive deeper into the Smith era and then onto Capaldi and eventually Whittaker, and ultimately crown our top picks.
The worst Doctor Who episode
Over to you, Josh.
of all time. Okay. I hate that you forced me to sit through that.
Do you know what is your final line?
I do, but I am in pain. Okay, thanks for watching all. I shall catch you next time.
That was something, wasn't it?